My wife, aged 32 at the time of this account, attended the same college as the subject of this narrative. They became close friends, engaging in a great deal of alcohol consumption and other forms of socializing. This was so excessive that it is remarkable that my wife did not fail to graduate. I, aged 35, met my wife on her first day at work. I had been employed at the company for several years before she was hired, and thus I was responsible for training her. We subsequently married, which marks the beginning of the narrative. After we had been married for 6 years, her former college friend finally got engaged. My wife was surprised that her friend was even willing to. We agreed early on as a married couple that she would cease maintaining close contact with this girl, for the sake of our relationship. One night, shortly after she discovered her friend's engagement, she informed me that she would be spending the evening with her parents and would not return until after dinner. This did not strike me as unusual, so I did not inquire further. However, when I returned home from work and went to take out the trash, I noticed something akin to a postcard through the side of my curiosity was piqued, so I proceeded to read the invitation through the plastic. It was an invitation to a bachelor party that very night, held in the city at a men's steak club. I drove there without hesitation, as I was concerned about my wife's behavior and the potential influence of the party environment. Upon arrival, I began inquiring about my wife or the bride by name. Eventually, I encountered a woman who stated that they had departed from the party a short while ago with 2 men. When I inquired about their destination, she seemed reluctant to provide the information. I implored and offered incentives, and she provided me with a hotel name. I was incredulous. I repeatedly called my wife's number until I reached the lobby. She did not respond. I inquired with the receptionist about their hotel room, but she declined to provide the information. I waited for a period of time until I observed her exit the elevator with a man. He appeared gratified, and so did my wife, until she looked up and saw me standing in their path. She gasped and covered her mouth, and tears began to flow uncontrollably. When AP was informed that I was her husband, she was visibly distressed. He averted his gaze and displayed a grimace, indicating that he did not consider this to be his problem but that he was nevertheless disinclined to become embroiled in the situation. I inquired as to the nature of the recent occurrence, and my wife appeared to be at a loss for words. She eventually managed to utter the words, "I made a poor decision to engage in social activities this evening," and requested that we return to our residence to discuss the matter further. I reiterated my question regarding the specific actions that had transpired, but she remained silent. She opened her mouth as if to speak but was unable to do so. She then grasped my hand in an attempt to leave the lobby. I disengaged from her grasp and stated that I was not prepared to take her back if she had engaged in infidelity. As a result, she remained in the lobby. My wife was seated on the lobby floor, weeping. Her friend arrived and was visibly disconcerted by the scene. The truth emerged: my wife had misled her friend about the state of our marriage. Eventually, we were seated in my vehicle. Before I drove away, my wife informed me that she could not control her urges and had succumbed to temptation with her friend. This was despite the fact that I had not approved of the act, as it was unethical and contrary to the vows we had taken together. My wife had lied and engaged in the act regardless. She later explained that, after a period of matrimony, she had craved excitement. At this juncture, I had already heard sufficient information to understand the situation. I provided a summary of her feelings, which included boredom and a lack of interest in our relationship. She had therefore resorted to infidelity. I informed her that I was no longer willing to forgive her and that I was no longer interested in remaining married to her. This led to a period of intense emotional distress, during which she repeatedly requested to leave the vehicle. I ultimately drove away. Her brother subsequently offered her accommodation, and I was informed that he had visited my residence to retrieve her belongings. 1 week later, he had grown tired of providing her with a place to stay. She was experiencing significant distress and was unable to attend her place of work or to take steps to improve her situation. I anticipated that she would call frequently, inquiring about my activities and requesting my company. I consistently declined, as I was not interested in interacting with her or in allowing her to resume a role in my life. My experience has taught me that women can be deceptive and manipulative when they wish to be. After she demonstrated this pattern, I decided to avoid any potential misunderstandings. I repeatedly declined her calls until I ceased responding to them. I do not intend to allow myself to be taken advantage of again. However, this experience has highlighted the limitations of my ability to control the actions of my spouse. Instead, I have come to recognize the importance of trust and self-preservation. I was prepared to defend myself if necessary, even though I had loved her for many years. I was aware that I could do the same for another woman. 2 years have passed since my separation from my ex-wife, who still lives at her brother's house. Their relationship has deteriorated, and my ex-wife has become resentful that I did not forgive her for a single night of infidelity. She now advocates for the importance of forgiveness on social media. The media often presents a negative view of alcohol consumption. I express my condolences for your wife's infidelity and her decision to engage in illicit behavior at her friend's bachelor party. It is evident that her actions were driven by a desire to prioritize her own gratification over your well-being. While she initially exhibited remorse, it was not genuine. Her subsequent bitterness was a direct result of her expectation that her actions would not be discovered. She believed that her actions would result in undesired consequences. She made it seem as though the years you spent together were like putting her life on hold, and no one should be made to feel that way. What she did was completely unfair and unforgivable. I am pleased that you found the invitation and then her as well, despite the unfortunate circumstances of that night. At least you were able to discover the truth. It would be unwise to allow her back into your life, even for a brief period. I wish you the best of luck in moving forward. In today's second story, I will discuss my wife, who was 27 at the time. She had a significant issue with comparing herself to her younger, more attractive sister, Madison. Madison remained single and continued to pursue her career goals. She was quite successful and had a TikTok following. My wife's fanbase, which often caused her considerable distress. She never openly acknowledged her feelings towards her sister, but she did occasionally confide in me. Despite this, she always sought to reassure me of her love for Madison. My wife even inquired of me, both during our courtship and after our marriage, whether I would have preferred to meet her sister instead. I consistently replied in the negative. Naturally, I believed that we were destined to be together and that she deserved to have a fulfilling life apart from her sister, regardless of her personal choices. However, my wife failed to grasp this message. She persistently monitored her sister's activities and frequently compared her life to that of others. Nevertheless, during their telephone conversations, she exhibited a supportive attitude towards her sister. Furthermore, there were no indications of jealousy. However, the situation reached a critical point when Madison got engaged. We had agreed to meet them for dinner, and her fiancé was a well-organized and successful individual. They complemented each other, and I was pleased for them. However, my wife did not share this sentiment. She appeared to be happy for them, but as soon as we entered the vehicle, she began exhibiting unusual behavior. She was quiet and seemed distracted. She began to use her phone more frequently. I was reasonably certain that she was monitoring Madison's fiancé's social media activity. After a few days, she began to interact with me in a more cordial manner. Over the subsequent 3 weeks, she met with her sister on several occasions without my knowledge while I was at work. On the first occasion, she did not inform me of her whereabouts. I was engaged in a late-night work session, but I subsequently learned that she had left the house because the security alarm recorded all comings and goings after she left the house on 2 additional occasions. I inquired about her whereabouts and she informed me that she was meeting with Madison because she was reconsidering her trust in Madison's fiancé. This seemed implausible to me because they appeared happy and confident together when I had previously observed them. While my wife was supposedly meeting with Madison, I examined her Facebook profile. It appeared that Madison was in a stable relationship with her partner, and she had even posted updates indicating that they were engaged in wedding planning. I finally sent Madison a message inquiring if she was currently with her sister. She replied in the negative and asked why, which prompted me to explain that she had informed me that she had been meeting with Madison on several occasions that week. She indicated that she was becoming increasingly concerned because her fiancé had been attending the gym with greater frequency. She informed me that she planned to attempt contacting him to ascertain his whereabouts, but he did not respond. We were unable to determine the locations of either party. She visited the gym, but AP was not present. Consequently, we waited for them to return. Madison sent me a text message indicating that AP had arrived at her residence. My wife arrived at her house at precisely the same time that I pulled into mine. When she walked in, I was overcome with emotion. I attempted to maintain composure, but my voice began to falter, and I found myself shouting. I informed her that I was aware she was not with her sister and that her fiancé was also missing. She had the audacity to accuse me of harboring feelings for her sister, despite my admission to the contrary. Before I could respond, she informed me that I could have her sister because she wanted a divorce. I was taken aback by this unexpected turn of events. I reiterated that I did not like Madison, as she had only served to highlight my suspicions about her reliability. I demanded to know her current whereabouts and the reason behind her sudden decision to divorce. In response, she revealed that Madison's fiancé, AP, was in love with her. He then became aware of the discrepancy between his wife and her sister, who was more inclined to commit to a relationship. I confronted her, asserting that her actions were irrational and cruel. She responded with a slap and an abrupt departure, accompanied by luggage she had prepared in advance. Her behavior was erratic and implausible. I believed that AP and her were destined to be together. By promptly departing from our relationship, she would be able to remain with him indefinitely. I contacted Madison, who answered despite being engaged in a heated exchange with AP. I heard him expressing remorse and apologizing to her. She rebuffed his apology and proceeded to another room to inform me of what he had told her, that my wife had persuaded him to meet with her. On several occasions, she informed him that she wished to maintain secrecy regarding the matter, citing the potential for emotional distress on the part of Madison and myself. She then proceeded to persuade him to engage in sexual intercourse, utilizing this as a means of demonstrating his suitability for loving Madison. I was utterly astonished by the audacity of her actions, which I perceived as highly inappropriate. I offered my sincerest apologies. On behalf of her sister, AP expressed remorse for her actions, which she recognized as having negatively impacted Madison's plans to marry the man she loved. AP sought Madison's forgiveness, and upon hearing this, I advised her to end the relationship. AP was visibly distraught, and I asked her what we should do. She responded almost immediately, stating that she was ending the relationship. I informed her that I would divorce my wife, as neither of them deserved our continued loyalty. We were the unwitting victims of circumstances beyond our control. In order to cope with the situation, we formed a support group to help us through the ordeal. 1 year later, Madison and I are in a regular relationship. Our relationship is gradually developing into a romantic one. AP moved away as soon as he realized that he would not be forgiven by Madison. He did not even consider sharing a home with my wife because it was an unfortunate miscalculation on my part when my former romantic partner came to realize that his feelings towards her were not as they should have been. He then proceeded to terminate the relationship and subsequently ceased all communication. However, my former partner persisted in attempting to contact me, calling me multiple times a day to request a sleepover or a cup of coffee and a chat. I consistently declined these requests and only answered the phone if she ceased calling. In response to this behavior, I obtained a restraining order following the dissolution of our marriage. When her sister came to visit, she proceeded to camp in the yard. This prompted me to consider calling the police if she attempted to enter the house. However, she did not pose a significant threat, and she ultimately departed due to the restraining order and trespassing charges. I have not received any updates since then, except for the information that her father had to bail her out of jail for an unrelated incident. Her release from incarceration for a trivial offense is indicative of a preoccupation with her sister's life that ultimately led to her downfall. This behavior reinforced her belief that her sister was a superior individual, which in turn undermined her own self-worth. The tendency to make comparisons can have a detrimental impact on an individual's perception of their own worth. It was incumbent upon your wife to demonstrate maturity and a clear understanding of her priorities. In a marriage, communication, honesty, and selflessness are essential. However, the subject in question lacked the capacity to be an honest and supportive sister. It is unlikely that she will ever have a meaningful relationship with anyone unless she learns to be selfless and honorable. It is important to stay grateful and content with everything you find in life. The decision to refuse a second chance for this individual was the correct one. A second chance may be granted after such behavior. You serve as an example to others who are experiencing a similar level of betrayal. We are grateful to you for sharing your experiences with us. We thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe. If you have not already done so, please comment below with your thoughts on what happened.